Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He has also served in the embassies in Myanmar and in Singapore. Director Hadi Goog in the Home Office has also served the Disarmament and Non-Proliferation Division, Latin America Cooperation Division, and the RoK-US Security Cooperation Division. Our moderator for this panel is Dr. Michelle Palumbarit, Associate Professor and in charge of the Korea Program of the Asian Center at the University of the Philippines. Our first panelist, and as I call you, please also occupy our stage, Professor Mark Salvador Ysla, a faculty member, professor at the Far Eastern University in Manila. Second panelist, we have Dr. Choong, Professor of Economics at Korea University. And our third panelist is Mr. Looi, Teck, Kheong, Principal Consultant, ASEAN Public Policy Asia Advisors. Yes, Director Hadi Goog, please take the floor.
Good morning. My name is Diego. Actually, I go by name Diego rather than Diego when I talk to my foreign friends. Thank you for having me here. And thank you also for pulling out that photo. I don't know where you got that from. That's from about 15 years ago. I remember taking that in Dubai, so I don't know where you pulled that out. It's my first time in the Philippines. It's interesting that with all the share of travels that I have, I've never been in the Philippines, but I'll be here many times throughout your chairmanship. Happy to be here. My presentation is going to be on 4 areas. Firstly, I'm going to give you a quick snapshot of my President's recent speech and his debut at ASEAN RoK Summit, 27 October that was. And then I'm going to use some numbers to show where Korea and ASEAN stands. Next, I'm going to quickly go through how my desk in Korea understands the concept of connectivity as presented by ASEAN. And then I'm going to try to tie the ACSP with my President's recent remarks at the summit. And I will guide you through some of very concrete projects that we are doing on government to government level on ASEAN-wide basis. And then I'll throw you some questions that hopefully I can get some feedback both here right now and maybe at the lunchtime as well. All right, that's the order of my presentation. Firstly, let me begin with my present speech at the ASEAN RoK Summit, which took place about 3 weeks ago. So it's a bit of wordplay, but Korea and ASEAN, we just had this comprehensive strategic partnership which we signed last year. So we are in the highest level of partnership. We built on the first initials of this comprehensive strategic partnership, CSP, to sort of throw the vision of how President Lee Jae-myung intends to develop this partnership in the next 5 years and further down the road. So for the C, he mentioned contributor for dreams and hope, S for springboard for growth and innovation, and P, partner for peace and stability. And for some of you who might think, oh, this is just a wordplay, and I don't know how it might differ from the previous visions of the political line of effort and then econ and the culture. Let me throw you some of the philosophical thoughts that went into this wordplay. For the contributor of Dreams and Hope, my president threw the goal of reaching 15 million people of 15 million per annum of people-to-people exchange, which currently stands at 12 million. But this is goes way beyond just people-to-people exchange in terms of number. I think Professor Gungura also mentioned a little bit about the student mobility and all those concepts. What we had in mind when we threw that contributor for Dream to Know is that about 1.5% of Korean population is actually from ASEAN. So ASEAN nationals are already taking up 1.5% of Korean population, and this expat community is the single largest, it's the most rapidly growing community in Korea. It's the second largest, but first largest if you would exclude the ethnic Chinese in Korea that are of Korean origin. So we took this socio-cultural aspect of RoK-ASEAN relations when we threw that vision of contributor of Dream to Know. Then for the S, the springboard for growth and innovation, quantitatively we threw this goal of increasing 50% the current volume of trade. So that means hiking up the current $200 billion a year to 300 billion. But I want you to focus on not just the quantitative aspect, but the quality that goes into it. President spoke about AI. He spoke of all those futuristic areas, which I'm going to go into greater depth in the next few minutes. We are looking into expanding quality, breathing more quality into our relations, and in that regard, we are in the process of upgrading ASEAN RoK FTA. And then the P, Korea has had this stereotype of being relatively small in the area of security, but we intend to go deeper in this aspect as well. So I hope you can have this larger picture of what the current administration's vision is towards ASEAN before I move on to the next slides. So some of the numbers that you can just refer to. I'm not going to go into greater depth. Just to let you know, the Philippines comprise about 1.1% of our trade overseas. ODA. I'm sorry. So, as you would know, ASEAN is the single largest recipient of Korean Official Development Assistance. This place is big both in terms of grant and concessional aids. Philippines has been one of the major recipients in this regard. And this is important because a lot of them is tied to the very concept of connectivity, especially in the infrastructure area. Let me go into a little bit greater depth. So I know I might be speaking to the choir when I show this slide, but to be frank, I wasn't aware of this impact mapping just until about a year ago. So for some of you who haven't seen this yet, I advise you that you maybe want to go to the ASEAN website and try to take that out, because it really helped me to understand what ASEAN connectivity stands for. And what really helped me to understand as I went through this is that, when we think of connectivity, I think a lot of us tend to view it through the prism of, say, infrastructure or logistics, but I've come to realize that it's a lot more than that. There is, people mobility into it, labor, and also regulatory improvement and things like that. So Korea has been pretty big and working hard to support these initiatives. These are some of the projects that were recognized by the progress report of MPEC 2025. I'm not going to go into depth of regarding these projects. I just want you to take a quick look through them. Also, some of the activities that we've been conducting in that regard. I'm just going to pass through because I'm going to go into greater depth when I throw you how some of these have been really unfolded and being developed under the ACSP. So quickly moving forward, these are the 7 major trends and 7 areas for improvement that ASEAN has identified as it moves from AMPAC to ACSP. And some of the areas, the trends and improvement that I mostly focus on is on the trend side was the digital transformation, climate change, supply chain, and urban expansion. And for the areas of improvement where I focus on was the awareness on connectivity, because for one thing, I wasn't aware that much of your concept of connectivity in the first place. And the emphasis on the stakeholders, because again, in as much as we try to improve the overall connectivity and the economic development in the area, if the stakeholders are not receptive, you can do only so much. I think the trends and this, the very areas of improvement, I think they were well reflected on how you more chiseled out and developed the new strategic goals and the objectives and strategic measures for the ACSP, which we are focusing on. And now let me connect this to my present speech. So these are a person in his speech at the summit. Throughout these areas, the area marked in blue, as the areas that Korea wishes to work on in the next 5 years. These are not obviously exhaustive, they're illustrative, but these are some of the areas that we want to focus on, and they speak to the 6 strategic goals of ACSP. Also, they tie to Korea's strength, because I know a lot of you may have visited Korea at a certain stage. It's well known that we've grown rapidly from the rubbles of war, and we have some of the best e-governance, the smart cities, and our AI level, our level of governance, and our level of overall vocational training. These can all contribute to the improvement of connectivity within ASEAN. So I'm going to use my next few minutes of allocated time to go into each specific areas of the strategic goal. So for the first area of the strategic goal of sustainable infrastructure, we are going through a project here in the Philippines as well, the Cebu International Container Port. I've heard it was one of the key projects that the Philippines is pushing. We're also big in other countries as well. I usually tend to focus on ASEAN-wide projects, but because these tangible projects are bigger and they are country-specific with repercussions beyond borders, I still laid out some of the projects that are being on bilateral basis. But I'm going to be a little bit more specific, and I'm going to throw you some more specific ASEAN-wide projects in my next slide. For instance, and I want to go into a little bit more depth on a couple of projects here. Smart and sustainable urban development. And I know you've identified urban development as one of new areas for you to focus on under the ACSP. And when I go around in many different cities across ASEAN, I realize that urban development needs some fixing, and Korea's had its trial and error, growing up rapidly. Couple of projects that I really want to highlight in that regard is one, the IMSWN, the one that is circled in blue. This is one of the ASEAN-wide projects that we are funding through the ASEAN-Korea Cooperation Fund. What this intends to do is to map how solid wastes are recycled or not recycled in the major cities across ASEAN. So it will look into how each major city in the region, they have what regulations they have to pick up the solid waste, how much of them are brought properly into the treatment centers, and how they are treated. I realize that you have a pretty good recycling system. I realized that as I was entering the hotel, but a lot of cities, I realized the roads are pretty dirty. There are a lot of waste to be recycled, to be well treated. And so that's one of the areas that we're focusing on and trying to really help the cities in the region to improve. Another thing that we're working on ASEAN-wide basis is the methane mitigation. So this also has to do with the climate change as well. Methane, as you well may know, is one of probably the single greenhouse gas, the reduction of which can have immediate impact on tackling climate change. Surprisingly, very few countries in the region have any idea of how to mitigate methane. So based with the help of the ASEAN Korea Cooperation Fund, we're helping each ASEAN member state to institutionalize a methane committee for you to look into your sources of methane and to see how you can reduce them. I'm going to be very brief on the digital innovation because we've already been pretty big in this area. Korea, we've had this project called CANIF. This is flagship projects for digital innovation. So I'm not going to go very deep in the digital innovation. We're big, we've been supporting a lot of different projects in this regard. Just want you to get a quick idea of, for those of you who are still taking photo, I'll let you know that these are some of the specific projects that we're doing. But here, these are some of the new projects that we're doing in areas that we try to, we're going to try to emphasize more Korea's visibility. For the strategic goal 5, I'm not sure if this will build on the question that was raised at the previous session, but we have the Korea ASEAN FTA, but its utilization rate is not as high as we hope it to be. And one of the major reasons is because the MSMEs don't know how to fully use it. And you gotta make it simple for them to use it. So we're trying to build an interface amongst the customs window that will allow quick and easy access to MSMEs. Another thing that we're working on, and this is a very interesting project, is called Team, is this, we are inviting the students as well as trainers to a number of different ASEAN member states for industry-specific training. So for example, let's assume one country is sort of like the best and sets the model for hotelier industry. Then we bring in the students or the trainers. It's always good to train the trainers. We bring them into that country and try to train them so they have a sort of like an equal level of training, equal level of capacity. This will allow different nationals of ASEAN to relocate rather easily to other countries, because now you already have a certain fairly equal level of capacity in that industry specific skills. But going back a little bit to my previous slide, and this is where I intend to finish up my presentation, is I want to just mention 3 more areas that I would like you to look into. And this is also where we can work on Korea to ASEAN basis, but also Korea to the Philippines basis. One is APG. So we are just now beginning to direct our attention to what APG might mean and where and how Korea can contribute in that regard. We are in the early stages of launching a study with ACE to see where Korea can come in and how we can contribute to APG. Some of the early thoughts that we have right now is, for instance, our Ysla Cable is a big Korean company with substantial expertise on underground cables. Other area we're looking very much into is nuclear energy. You know how Korea is one of the biggest players in terms of nuclear energy. We intend to initiate a ASEAN-wide training program in the area of nuclear safety and nuclear security, because we don't want to be just the sellers of operational aspect of nuclear energy. Nuclear energy has to come with safety and security as well, so we want to promote that aspect as well. And then the aerospace. And aerospace, what we mean by that, of course, we're developing concept, but is that Korea has a lot of surplus satellite capacity. Just to let you know, we have a project called CASA, whereby we have a few environment satellite in the geostationary orbit. And some of the sensors were primarily built and put up in the orbit to monitor Northeast Asia, but turns out that we can see Southeast Asia as well. So we have launched a project that allows this satellite to monitor the air quality in the region, and to help you to better see where different pollutants are coming from and which season and how. That will help to better tackle transboundary movement of pollutants, for instance. So we're looking we're trying to identify where we have excess capacity and where ASEAN have your demands, so our excess capacity can meet your demands. And probably this is also an area that ASEAN would be interested, but as well, but also the Philippines might be interested. I'll just leave it here, and I'd be really happy to hear your thoughts at the session, and also, you know, throughout the whole of today, to see where we can work on more to raise our visibility and to more effectively help the needs of ASEAN. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jago, for a very comprehensive, very informative presentation. You really mapped out the ASEAN, Korea, RoK, ASEAN connectivity in terms of, you know, institutionally, digitally, and socio-culturally. And to expand and elaborate on these topics, we have here our excellent speakers, but I know you're very much excited to present. But before that, this is in terms particularly on sustainable urban development, economics, and digital innovation. But before you present, let me ask you questions which I believe your presentations can answer, and of course, our participants here really can ponder upon. Let me start with Professor Ysla. From your perspective, and you know the Philippines as one of the countries that is vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, how can Korea's expertise in green ports, renewable energy, and climate-resilient urban planning best support the Philippines? And for Dr. Lyol, from an economic standpoint, as an economist, where do you see the highest value opportunities for RoK-ASEAN cooperation in making regional supply chains, particularly in semiconductors, for more resilient and future-ready? And for Dr. Looi, and thanks for meeting and brainstorming on this. How can RoK-ASEAN cooperation on digital innovation and regulatory excellence to be significantly enhanced and accelerated under the chairmanship of the Philippines next year. So with that, I give now the floor to our excellent panelists here, and let's start with you, Professor Ysla.
Thank you very much, Dr. Palumbarit. So before I start my short presentation, I'd like to appreciate some of the points raised by Diego, particularly related to human exchanges in ASEAN. When I was part of ASEAN Korea Center, I was one of those who spearheaded the ASEAN youth programs, and which I think valuable, especially if we really want to make a more sustainable connection with each other from Korea and also ASEAN. Second, I also wanted to mention the digital interface. I think when I was part of ASEAN Korea as well, there was a time when we tried to actually start a digital interface where the ASEAN Korea FTA is included. And I'd like to also emphasize the complicated situation of understanding the Korea FTA, and that's one of the reasons perhaps why a lot of MSMEs are having trouble or difficulties in understanding the ASEAN Korea FTA. But to answer the question of how Korea's expertise in green ports, renewable energy grid, and climate resilient urban planning best support the Philippine flagship infrastructure projects and its 2026 chairmanship priorities. Well, good thing about ASEAN and Korea is that Korea is already a trusted partner of ASEAN, and there are a lot of potential partnerships that can be done, although a lot has already been done in the past. In the perspective of the Philippines, logistics is basically one of the things that I also want to emphasize, primarily because our country is basically shaped and also constrained by geography. And so the economic impact of logistics and supply chain is quite real. For example, over 80% of our domestic cargo moves by sea. And so our country is also, looking at the possibility of improving not the infrastructures related to logistics and supply chains. And I think Korea can well participate as a partner in this particular development, not just as a financial provider, but as also a capacity builder for this particular sense. Also, our country is one of the emerging markets for e-commerce, and so and also inter-island tourism is also being emphasized by the government. So all of these are in fact happening against the backdrop of the ASEAN Philippine chairmanship. So Korea and the Philippines can basically co-design systems of sustainable infrastructure and urban development, which can also be scaled up to the ASEAN model. So on the sustainable infrastructure and green ports and connected corridors, not just the development of ports, but also making it future ready. And when we say making our ports future ready, digitalization and to some extent decarbonization, or perhaps introducing eco-sustainable systems in the ports can also be a point of partnership between ASEAN and also Korea, because Korean expertise in port digitalization and well-connected logistic corridors is basically an advantage that can be utilized by the Philippines. Although in terms of port development, I understand that Singapore and Korea is now ironing out some agreement about port digitalization, but the Philippines can still, take part in this initiative by also developing port digitalization in our country. So in terms of capacity building, programs, trainings, and retoolings of skills can also be provided by ASEAN, by Korea in this particular sense. In terms of renewable energy, I hope that Korea can also explore the possibility of sharing strategies in terms of grid management, business support, and business support, which will actually help our country reduce the cost of electricity. As you know, the Philippines is one of the countries in Southeast Asia that has a high cost of electricity, and using renewable energy is in fact good advantage for our country, and I think Korea can also help in further exploring partnership in that aspect. So the Philippines is one of the Southeast Asia's fastest growing e-commerce markets. So the question is how to further enhance supply chain in order to support e-commerce market. So Korea can contribute in shaping strategies and enhancing supply chain using technologies like AI and other innovative platforms. Korea can also help us in developing smart cities. Perhaps Korea and the Philippines can initiate joint urban climate labs with local government units and university researchers and other communities in order to map out risks and design nature-based solutions or sustainable solutions for disaster resilience. So I'd like to emphasize, also in the partnership of Korea, the Philippines, and also ASEAN, the role of creative economy in regional connectivity. I hope that Korea will continue to support ASEAN in the context of creative economy, especially because we want to develop our regional tourism, and that will be showcased to other ASEAN states. And so when we talk about regional tourism, the capacity of each province is to basically develop their creative economy through the festivals, etc., and other things related to the creative economy in school. So sharing experience and perhaps helping in the creation of a framework that would basically further enhance the capacity of the Philippines on creative economy would be very much welcome. Lastly, I'd like to emphasize the idea of monitoring and evaluation of all the programs of the government, which I think Korea has a strong framework for M&E. And so I hope that Korea can also share insights with the government on, in terms of monitoring and evaluation, because this is quite important especially this time, that a lot of government projects are, being questioned. So I'd like to, hopefully Korea and the Philippines would be able to advance partnerships in those areas. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Professor Ysla. Very interesting points indeed. And I can see Diego jotting down notes for sure. You have inputs on this later. And you mentioned about value chains. And now let's go to the economics major expert himself, Dr. Lee Choong, the Professor of Economics at Korea University.
I'm actually, as she told me, I'm an economist, so I'm going to focus on the data and numbers which you are not familiar with. Actually, I'm in the university, therefore I'm in the objective in terms that some of you are from the private sector, some of you the public sector, but this whole conference is made by the public sector, which is the embassy here. So that I'm going to be a little neutral, but I like to represent the private sector today here. A lot of things are going on here, and the presenter says something on the many topics, for example, like logistics improvement, SME corporation, digital, infrastructure, value chain, and all these things are kind of policies initiated by the Korean government and some of the ASEAN member countries government. But what was the outcome? Maybe I can say the two outcomes of the private sector. How many people are moving around Korea to ASEAN, ASEAN to ASEAN? That's one of the private sector's outcome. The other outcome is how much cooperation is going on in the private sector in terms of business firm sector. So I like to focus on the data given by the firm sector. Let's go to slide number 8, please. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, right here. These are the industrial structure of ASEAN member countries. Two important characteristics are going on. First of all, mineral sector, agriculture, forest sector is very strong in ASEAN. Second thing is, surprisingly, the manufacturing sectors count for 20%. 20% is a small one. Actually, for the Korean cases, used to be around 28 and 29 for almost 40 years. It stayed that Korea is a hub of the manufacturing sectors. But 20 sector is a relatively high one here. So that we can say that, ASEAN is very good in the developing and the manufacturing sectors. The next slide, please. Next. Okay, that's here. Who are the actual partners? Next slide, please. Here's I take the data of the around 4,483 listed companies of ASEAN member, 9 ASEAN member countries, which has the stock exchanges here. And there are 2,885 companies listed in the Korean stock market. So I try to compare with those things. Next slide. And these are the very important factors. How many companies in Korean stock market is in terms of like sectors are listed? In Korea, is about 63% of listed companies are in the manufacturing sector. Therefore, as you see, the Samsung, LG, and most of the largest company in Korea is in the manufacturing sector. So the Korea is a manufacturing hub in ASEAN or the Asia or the world. But if you're looking at the industrial structure of the listed company, the stock market of ASEAN, 9 ASEAN member countries is about 4,000 companies. The manufacturing sector is only count of 29%, but other sectors like mining or service sector, maybe say like wholesale, ICT, real estate count of more than 70%. So why the manufacturing sector in the whole industry is very strong in ASEAN countries, but in the companies are not. So the big differences happen between the listed company in ASEAN and also the whole industrial structures are different. That's the question I like mentioning. Next slide, please. And here's the number of listed companies in the only manufacturing sector. Say that the manufacturing sectors, if you look at only here, Korea is very strong in the electricity, computers. The left side is about 20% is electronic equipment, 5, automobile 8. So that in the electricity, transportation, machinery is very strong in the manufacturing sectors. But if you look at the ASEAN 9 member countries, listed company cases, they are very strong in the food industry, food and beverage, maybe textile, and those are very strong here. So what I'm trying to say is that industrial structures, the sectors, the manufacturing industry are very different. The industrial structure looks similar but different in the listed company cases. So how the connection between Korean companies and ASEAN companies are going on? If you look at the macro data, trade between ASEAN and Korea is very large, and the increase are large. Every year it increases. But how you're looking at the connection between company to company, the story is a little different. Let's look at the next slide. And I like, okay, next slide. Oh, right here. So the value chain, if you from the Korea's viewpoint, this is true that developing countries in ASEAN, Vietnam, Middle East, and North African countries, because Korea imported a lot of petroleum and natural gases from Middle East. So those are very important natural resources. So we imported a lot of natural oil, gas, and raw materials to Korea. And these are one of the value chain we are going to say is from Korea to ASEAN here. But next value chain, next slide please, is that how we cooperate with the Korean company in ASEAN and company in ASEAN too here. Say like Korea produces intermediate good, the ASEAN country is imported intermediate good and provide as export to the final good here. These are the value chain currently going on here. Who are the company in ASEAN? Who are the company in Korea? Unfortunately, the major company who trade with Korea in this value chain is not an ASEAN company. It's a Korean company incorporated in ASEAN. They are not listed in the stock market, but they are influential in this here. So that big differences happen in industrial structure and structure in the stock market, structure of the company. So the question is that is this kind of relationship is sustainable or not? Please, previous slide, please. Okay, this may be sustainable because ASEAN has lots of natural resources and provide. Next slide, please. This one may be, may not, or may be here. Thing is that as times go by, the question is that the incomes of ASEAN incomes of ASEAN people here will increase. Then is it profitable for the Korean company to stay in Korea or to move out another country, say like India or Eastern Africa or Latin America? These are the questions right now most of the Korean large company had in mind. It's absolutely true. That's 10 years is. I mean, in the case of Philippines here, right now the GDP per capita in Philippines is about 4,000 to 5,000. But we are pretty sure that maybe 5 or 10 years later it's going to be a double here. Then the question is the workers' wage of Philippines is too high for the Korean company to adapt it. Then maybe Korean company maybe leave the Philippines or Malaysia, Indonesia, whatever countries, they go to other countries. These are the questions currently Korean company keep in mind. I mean, it's kind of headache. I mean, a lot of things the Korean like to stay in ASEAN, but unfortunately, the company in ASEAN incorporated in Korean company is not ASEAN company, it's a Korean company incorporated in here. So some of the right now the Korean government and Korean companies are working together and they're a project. The best way to work with the ASEAN and also Korean company to work in ASEAN is to raise the productivity of the workers of the ASEAN workers. It is inevitable that ASEAN people's income or maybe salaries increases. So how to compete with that way or raise the productivity of ASEAN member states for people's workers. And there was a debate on these things here. Is it okay for the Korean people's taxpayer money to spend to raise the productivity of the workers of ASEAN? That was the issue in Korea here. Right now there are some projects going on. Next slide, please. That's the next slide here. So value chain between Korea and ASEAN has been constructed for whole process of production. That's true here. The resource supply is going on. But intermediate good to final good is done through the Korean company in Korea and the Korean company incorporated in ASEAN. That was the big question right now. Next slide. Okay, next slide. Right, the third one. It should be a Korean company and Korean government to raise the productivity of the local company and workers in the manufacturing industry in ASEAN. Most of you are in ASEAN manufacturing factory. It's not a big one. It's not a listed company. It's a SMEs. So that issue of the SME is an issue. At the same time, how to raise the productivity of workers? Two things: digitalization and raise the training. So the education and digitalization is very, very important issue to focus on these things. Next slide, please. Okay, several experimental projects is going on here. One project is going on in Vietnam. I was in Vietnam last month to try to initiate a new project for the smart factory. How to implement the smart factory some of the ASEAN member countries is, if it is successful in one cases, then it can expand it. The first choice is we made is in Vietnam. Why there are so many Korean manufacturing companies in Vietnam. So that we try to build, modify and transform some of the Vietnam company, Vietnam local company and Korean company incorporated in Vietnam in the smart factory to do things. If it is successful, we will expand it to many companies in ASEAN countries. Then more and more companies in ASEAN will be transformed to smart factory, and they raise the productivity and also they can work too here. That's the way the current is going on. To raise and also smart factory include means of training at the same time digitalization here. Next slide, please. Okay, manufacturing political leaders do not recognize. That's true here. The question is how can you assist to the company in ASEAN with the taxpayers' money? Currently, as a specialist in ASEAN economy and Korean economy trade and like that, I try to persuade the Korean politicians and government officers, and maybe we think hopefully we going to do it in the future. And remember that we are in the same boat. These are the slogans we're going to say that here. All days is we are separated. Right now, the value chains are connected together. Therefore, if Korea is go forward, then ASEAN should go forward. If ASEAN should go forward, then Korea will go forward. That we think that we are in the same boat. If one of these two are in trouble, then both are in trouble. So these are the things I would like to emphasize. Okay, thank you very much.
Dr. Lee, I like the idea we are in the same boat, but I would like to imagine it's a big boat, and a small boat. And now let's go to our last speaker on digital innovation in AI. Please, Mr. Looi.
Thank you, Dr. Palumbarit, distinguished presenter, Director Ha, Your Excellencies, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking the organizers for an extremely timely session. The Philippines 2026 ASEAN Chairmanship, theme of inclusivity, sustainability, and digital transformation could not be better aligned with the Republic of Korea's greatest strength, a world-leading digital economy and some of the most advanced and trusted regulatory frameworks on the planet. So today I will focus on two most interdependent pillars of the ASEAN Connectivity Strategic Plan: digital innovation and regulatory excellence and cooperation. Now these two pillars are inseparable. Without harmonized, forward-looking and trusted regulation, digital innovation will remain fragmented, siloed, and unable to deliver inclusive growth across our 11 very diverse ASEAN economies. Let me just quickly set the baseline again. Korea is already ASEAN's 5th largest trading partner and the 3rd largest source of high-tech foreign direct investment. We have solid foundations on the ongoing ASEAN RoK Digital Economy Framework Agreement negotiations, Korea's strong support for the ASEAN Digital Ministers meeting process, the Joint Data Ecosystem Initiative, and numerous Korean ASEAN Digital Innovation Projects, KADI. These are excellent, but we are still in the early innings. So the real acceleration can and must happen under the Philippines 2026 Chairmanship. Allow me to highlight 5 impact opportunities. Can I have the next slide, please? First, let us turbocharge the DIFA, and some of you know is the Digital Economy Framework Agreement for ASEAN. So the Philippines can champion the dedicated Republic of Korea ASEAN Annex inside DIFA that focuses on cross-border data flows, digital trade facilitation, and electronic invoicing, all modeled on Korea's systems that consistently rank among the best in the world. So concluding this annex in 2026 would be transformative for digital trade across the region. Second, let us make responsible AI governance a flagship of Republic of Korea ASEAN cooperation. And as the AI ambassador for Global Council for Responsible AI, I would propose that Philippines chairs a multi-year ASEAN Republic of Korea Responsible AI Partnership running from 2026 to 2030, building on Korea's national AI strategy and Singapore's respected AI governance framework. So concrete deliverables could include joint AI ethics guidelines tailored for our SMEs, intensive capacity building for regulators across all 11 ASEAN members, and a trilateral regulatory sandbox involving Singapore, Korea, and the Philippines, where startups can test AI solution in a safe cross-border environment. And thirdly, regulatory sandboxes and mutual recognition. Korea's 2020 Regulatory Sandbox Act and its fintech successors provide a proven template. Under Philippines' leadership, we can establish an ASEAN-wide digital regulatory excellence network and fast-track mutual recognition of electronic signatures, national digital IDs, and cybersecurity certifications between Korea and all 11 ASEAN states. So imagine a Korean fintech or a Philippine startup operating seamlessly across 11 markets with one set of trusted credentials. Fourth, we must look ahead to critical and emerging technologies. Korea is a global leader in quantum-safe cryptography and 6G research. A joint RoK and ASEAN initiative to develop regional standards in these areas now will give us a decisive first-mover advantage, while much of the world is still waking up to these challenges. So fifth, inclusive digital public infrastructure. Korea has ranked #1 in the UN e-Government Development Index for years. Now that expertise can be leveraged to help our CLMV countries, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam, build open, interoperable, and inclusive DPI tracks, with the Philippines serving as a natural bridge because of its own rapid digitalization journey and its 2026 chairmanship. To turn vision into action, I offer 3 very concrete proposals for 2026. 1, we launch an ASEAN RoK Republic of Korea Digital Connectivity Task Force, co-chaired by the Philippines and Korea, meeting quarterly and reporting directly to our Leaders Summit. 2, host the inaugural ASEAN Republic of Korea AI Governance Summit right here in Manila in 2026, a landmark event that can put this partnership firmly on the global map. And third, establish a $50 to $100 million joint fund seeded by Korea, the ASEAN Development Bank and other development banks that would like to participate, and the Philippines, dedicated exclusively to digital regulatory capacity building and startup regulatory sandboxes across the entire region. So dear ladies and gentlemen, regulatory excellence is the ultimate force multiplier for all 6 pillars of the ASEAN Connectivity Strategic Plan. Now when regulation is harmonized, trusted and future-oriented, it unlocks sustainable infrastructure, seamless logistic, people-to-people connectivity, everything. So with the Philippines' inclusive, sustainability-focused, and innovation-driven chairmanship in 2026, we have a once-in-a-decade window for the Republic of Korea and ASEAN to set the global benchmark for responsible, human-centered digital connectivity. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the discussion.
I was told that I have an hour left still, right? In as much as we would like to have more discussions, I'm afraid we can't, we don't have the talk tonight. But very interesting point, the digital innovation, AI governance, and the AI Governance Summit next year. So we expect to see you here again next year. So I'm afraid we cannot, open the floor for questions, but if you have questions, feel free to approach our speakers later. And I'll just recap this because I was told that we don't have enough time. So to recap on this, I really appreciated the presentation of Diego. You mapped the connectivity, RoK-ASEAN connectivity in many aspects, again, economically, institutionally, and social-culturally. I really like it when you listed down all those areas of improvement and also the trends. Very interesting indeed. For Professor Ysla, I would like to highlight that co-develop, but I think I would like to propose co-creation of knowledge would be better. Really, just have this sense of ownership for the region and our RoK. And for Professor Lee, truly we are in the same boat. But again, I would like to imagine a bigger boat, a ship at that. And I would like to really highlight your focus on raising the productivity of workers in ASEAN, and as a tide really that can raise us all towards a peaceful journey to a prosperous and sustainable future. So with that, please give a big round of applause to our speakers, presenters. Yes. Again, thank you so much, and I was told lunch is coming soon. So, bon appetit and a lovely morning to all of us. Thank you.
Yes, lunch is not yet probably.
Ayan na,
So in the interest of time, we have 5 minutes break.
we are just making you yearn for food. Ginutom yun na. Ginutom yun na. Natakam na.
Sir, saan ka na sa'yo? Sinend ko na sa'yo. Maka-address kay Dean. Mag-send din kami kay Sir. Mag-sinend namin sa
Ako din namin. Meron pa na dun sa likod ng phone. Para we can we can keep an eye on it.
So it's a
I will make my presentation.
Hindi ko siya picture ka. Si Sher naman sa atin. Pag nakita mo yung picture mo.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
We just want to ask, so ganyan ba? Yung botones parang nagkakalis. I can adjust. It's like babae, malaki, may kotse. Agnes, ito kasi Turing. Mabulas. Ano ba yung tamang term?
Maganda.
Bulas, mabulas.
Malaki.
Diba? Nakanguha ko.
Ano man?
Run out of decent hours.
Oh, ganda ng ilaw. Ay, pasin na rin. Pagkas naman yata.
He'll be the main person.
Ay, hindi ba?
That's my favorite.
Ay, bakit hindi mo ito na? Mark Justin. John, dito.
Ay, hindi kasi nag-iba ako ng
How do you feel so bad because the people cannot go for lunch? They're like, oh, but it's not lunch. So sorry.
May answer.
Neil ba?
sorry, so I said, kung kailangan nyo ng, are you introducing one of the roles specific?
Lahat po. But I'll just introduce
Yes.
medyo mahaba na.
So, mga 20 to 30 minutes. So, yung sa akin, nagpadala ko kay Irish na parang very, very brief bio where I teach. Okay.
Wala
I can send
natanggap, sir.
Padala ko lang eh. Where can I forward it? Viber ka ba? Or WhatsApp?
Diyan kami na
I'll put it on
pwede humingi kapag messaging ka. Tapos ito naman.
Hinos ko ba siya? Si Dr. Pian.
Consulta.
Hinos namin siya. Galing daw siya ng we have to do UP email personal. I can access it, so you can use it. You can leave the email. Just before you read it, sabi ko sa mga mails, I just look at them. Don't use my YouTube email. Hindi ko lang kung nagsasabi sa mga. Zero times.
Miss Universe.
Short bio lang. Hello. Yes. Nasa ano naman, nasa mag-rooms lang naman ako. Nasa ako lang sa letter.
Pinapalitan ako ng order sa susunod. Kasi
Isa mo naman sa akin. Oo. Ano naman? Tipid sa data.
Bye, sir.
I just arrived naman from another meeting.
Ikaw na sunod, sir.
Yes, you have.
Ayos po na rin, sir.
Hello, may I request everyone to settle down again?
I didn't receive the presentation, so I give you my opinion. Okay, so
You, I'm sorry. Dr. Lee.
We are going to resume our forum.
You don't know the next question.
Kaya na lang.
Oh, and I wouldn't know what. Oh, because it was exciting.
Sa ASEAN Korea. Sa Korea. Yes. Sa Korea.
They don't realize how important this is.
Masarap din yung ano, may sisig advance.
Okay, please be seated.
Ano yun?
I think we can begin.
Innovation ng ating...
So this is our final panel for this forum, maritime connectivity. Our presenter is Mr. Angelo Felix Lopez. He is the director of the Ocean Governance, Shipping, and Seafaring Division of the Department of Foreign Affairs